If you want, just in a moment, we're going to be speaking to Human Rights Watch about this. So if you've got any questions, quickly send them in right now on Facebook, Twitter or WhatsApp. So, yes, the rule is being changed, we know that, but it is just one small step. Saudi Arabia, in the words of such human rights organisations, remains one of the most repressive societies in the world. Human Rights Watch explains that women must get permission from a male guardian before they can travel abroad, get married or even access government services like healthcare. And punishments for breaking the law are severe. The Palestinian poet Ashraf Fayyad was sentenced to 800 lashes and 8 years imprisonment for allegedly blasphemous writings. He was initially going to be executed. Amnesty also says that just in January of this year, there were 47 executions, most of them beheadings, and those put to death included juvenile offenders. So that just gives you a bit more about what else is going on in Saudi Arabia. Here is Rothna Begum now, women's rights researcher on Middle East and North Africa for Human Rights Watch, joining us from London. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
How much of a step forward is this? Because this is, I think, what Leah was making the point before, the step forward, the it's about time, and the really something more needs to be done here. Where do you think it sits?
Well, firstly, this is actually a huge victory for the women's rights activists who have been campaigning for this for more than 2.5 decades. Now, these women who have campaigned for this have been subject to arrest, who have been harassed, intimidated. They've even spent time in prison for this right to drive on an equal basis to men. Now, the decree itself, when it was announced, wasn't a decree that said that women could drive tomorrow. It said that women would be allowed to drive, but in June 2018. And it said that within 30 days, a committee will come up with rules to help implement this decree. Now, that's where the caution has to come in while we do herald this victory. And the caution is that in these 30 days, we don't know whether the committee is going to try to enable women to drive or they're planning to restrict women's right to drive, which means that instead of allowing women to drive on an equal basis to men, they may in fact face a larger restrictive nature of the rules than men will.
What next then, Rothna? I mentioned a few other things there that a lot of Saudi women still can't access. I mean, what do you think could happen next? Or is this sort of almost a bit of a, I don't want to say a PR stunt, because it's something that's clearly been going on, but also it's something which garners a lot of attention at one point when Saudi Arabia is not getting the best press?
The driving issue has been one small part of a much larger issue of discrimination against women. The big part, of course, is the male guardianship system, which is the biggest impediment for women's rights in the kingdom. So while that still exists, driving will only do so much for women's freedom. So women may be able to drive independently and go to certain places, but they still will have to, when it comes to traveling abroad, they still need their male guardian's permission. In order to obtain a passport, they still need a male guardian's permission. So a woman who's widowed, who may not have a husband, but they're 65 now, 70, but they have a son, they still have to turn to their son now for a number of critical decisions about their own life. So that system still exists in reality. Now, there was an opportunity back in April when the King decreed that the government agencies who have been imposing rules on women to seek guardian permission, but doing so without any regulation, are to stop doing that. At the same time, the decree called for all government agencies to submit their rules on guardianship to the authorities, and that they would review them. But that deadline passed in July, and we have heard nothing since. So it could be that while they're providing for the driving issue, we are yet to hear whether or not they will actually dismantle the main system of discrimination against women, which is the male guardianship system.
Rothna Begum, thank you so much for your time. Much appreciated today on this very important topic. If you go back into the Al Jazeera archives on the story, go back to